Often when games are released late on a console's life, it means they go by relatively unnoticed, but nowadays eventually become known thanks to the internet. This happens to be one of those games, and I recently acquired a reproduction copy. Is Shantae one of those hidden gems, or is this a genie wish we didn't ask for? Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder. Today we'll be reviewing Shantae. Shantae was developed by WayForward Technologies, and published by Capcom. Before this game was released, WayForward had a few other Game Boy Color releases, and a Super Nintendo and Sega release, but Shantae is the first real notable release. They eventually went on to develop the Shantae sequels, Contra 4, Blood Ring Betrayal, Aliens Infestation, and the Double Dragon and DuckTales HD remasters. They had a difficult time finding a publisher at first, with the game requiring a 32 megabit battery backup, which made it expensive to produce. Additionally, the game was going to be released on the Game Boy Color a year after the Game Boy Advance had already been available. On top of that, publishers are oftentimes leery about new IPs due to the risk involved, but despite all that, Shantae was released on the Game Boy Color in June of 2002, and drifted into obscurity for some time. It was eventually re-released on the 3DS Virtual Console in July of 2013. I played Shantae on the GameCube using the Game Boy Player. Shantae is a side-scrolling platformer. It's actually more so of a Metroidvania-style game, meaning it's a platforming game with an openly explorable world, but areas are inaccessible until new items or abilities are acquired. The main game that comes to mind when I play this is Castlevania II: Simon's Quest, though trust me, it takes the positives without the negatives. The reason it reminds me of Simon's Quest is due to the Metroidvania-style gameplay, with towns acting as hubs in between the various areas, and it also uses a day and night cycle. For those unfamiliar with Simon's Quest, that's actually the game clip I used in my intro. The day-night cycle is actually pretty interesting, because not only does the appearance of the areas change to reflect the time, but at night enemies become stronger and more difficult to defeat, and some town locations are only usable at day or night. Shantae's gameplay seems simple at first, but after a short time spent playing, we are introduced to more depth. We have our standard left and right movement, jumping, running, crouching and crawling, and our basic attack that makes use of our large ponytail as a whip-like attack. As we progress through the game, we may purchase upgraded gear that gives additional attacks, a flip kick, and an elbow dash. These also have additional upgrades, giving the flip kick a follow-up drill attack, and the elbow dash can then be transitioned into a long-distance twirl attack. Shantae's unique gameplay comes from the ability to transform into various animals by performing a dance combo. As dungeons are explored, we will meet other genies who will teach Shantae new dance moves, allowing her to shift into the form of a monkey that may climb walls and jump further and higher, and can be upgraded to gain a swipe attack. We have an elephant that can dash into and destroy various obstacles and enemies, and a spider that can climb webs in certain walls that can be upgraded gaining a projectile attack. There's also a harpy that is able to fly, and can gain a slashing attack. Lastly, if the game is played on the Game Boy Advance, or the GameCube Game Boy Player, we can shift into a Tinkerbat that can climb walls, has a powerful slash attack, and has a hilarious running animation. As we progress throughout the game, various areas require different forms to reach alternate paths, and collectibles that unlock additional features. There are warp squid children that when found and given back to a warp squid mother in a town, we are then taught a dance that will teleport us to the town from any location. At night we can find fireflies, and when a certain amount are collected and turned in, we will then learn another dance that will restore 1 heart of health for 10 gems, but I wasn't able to find them all on this playthrough. We can also find heart holders, which when found give an additional heart of health. The health meter in Shantae is represented by hearts, and each time we take damage, we'll lose half a heart, but of course there are spikes and pits that cause instant death. Fortunately, we have additional lives, and until gone, death just means restarting the last area transition, but all progress is kept including gems earned, upgrades found, and enemies slain. Once the lives run out, we are given a game over, and may continue from the last save location. There are save locations in every town we visit, and in certain areas, we may find a sage who will allow us to save our progress while on the go. The towns also have other important places to visit, such as bathhouses to restore health, item shops where we can purchase a variety of upgrades, health potions, and useful items to help along the way. There are also special buildings in many towns allowing us to dance for an audience to gain additional gems, and a very useful gambling game that can rack up a large amount of gems. Each town has a small population of inhabitants that we may speak to, gaining some insight to the surrounding areas, and even some clues to help progress the story. Gems are the game's currency, and can usually be earned by slaying enemies or destroying jars. Enemies may also drop small hearts to restore health, and sometimes we may find large hearts in jars that restore additional health. Each location has its own variety of enemies, and within the dungeon-like areas we'll also face off with unique mini-bosses and main bosses. Shantae is a moderately challenging game, requiring precise platforming, a steady pace, and adaptation to the various enemies we face. There's no in-game map to guide us, and many of the secrets are easily missed. The difficulty starts off simple, but ramps up as we get further in the game like any good Metroidvania does. You will be punished for playing sloppy, but it's appropriately forgiving. I died quite a bit, and had my fair share of continues throughout. Before moving on, I'd like to mention that I will be talking about spoilers, so if you'd like to skip ahead, go ahead and click on the annotation. Let's move on then. Our story begins in the world of Sequinland. Shantae, a half-genie, has been hired as the guardian of Scuttletown. On a typical beautiful sunny day, as Shantae is chilling out maxing, relaxing all cool in her lighthouse, it's suddenly bombarded by cannon fire. Coming to the realization that Scuttletown has fallen under attack of a pirate ship, she makes her way to town to perform her guardianship duties. Shantae then encounters Risky Boots, the self-proclaimed Queen of the Seven Seas, and attempts to stop her from stealing a strange device called a steam engine. Risky manages to escape, and under the plea of the relic hunter Mimic, Shantae begins her journey to stop Risky and retrieve the steam engine. Shantae's travels through Sequinland lead her to a variety of towns as she pursues Risky, and there are a colorful cast of characters who will help her along the way. Bolo, Shantae's sparring partner, is the first to assist and helps Shantae gain access to the dribble fountain, where we then learn that Risky is after a series of relics that will allow her to use a steam engine without worry of water, fire, maintenance, and cooling. Securing the dribble stone, Shantae then makes her way west through the wastelands and desert, and then calls upon the assistance of Sky, a warbird trainer, who sends her warbird Wrench to help Shantae gain access to the golem mine. Again stopping Risky Boots and securing the golem stone, Shantae now heads east again, through a giant snail-infested wasteland and a haunted forest, and finally finding the zombie caravan at night. Seeking help from the resident zombie, Roddy Tops, Shantae is challenged to a race, where if she wins she will gain Roddy Tops' assistance, or if she loses, she has to forfeit her brains. Successfully outrunning Roddy Tops, she then helps Shantae gain access to the Cackle Mound Labyrinth, where Shantae again intercepts Risky and finds the Simmer Stone. Shantae then makes her way to the bandit town and meets with the unnamed genie who claims she will help Shantae enter the Twinkle Palace Labyrinth. When Shantae locates the Twinkle Stone, Risky Boots is nowhere to be found. Upon exiting the labyrinth, we discover the genie was actually Risky in disguise, and Risky manages to steal all 4 relics and escapes. Determined to stop her, Shantae seeks the legendary Spy Scope, an artifact that is able to transport anyone to a visible location, and it just so happens there is an island that is spotted, and we see a pirate ship docked there. The Spy Scope teleports Shantae to the hideout of Risky, which happens to be a Tinkerbat factory, and makes her way through the fortress. Finally catching up to Risky, who has completed her super weapon, the Tinker Tank, that is powered by the steam engine and the 4 relics. Shantae then takes on the Behemoth and manages to bring it down and destroys the relics in the process. Angry about the destruction of her super weapon, Risky then faces off with Shantae in a final battle. Upon defeat, Risky escapes and the Tinkerbat factory begins to self-destruct. Shantae escapes, and we then learn that there are still some genies remaining. For her selfless deeds, they wish to make Shantae into a full genie, and have her join them in the world of genies and live her days in peace and harmony. But despite all the troubles of the world, Shantae does not wish to leave her friends behind, and chooses to remain a half-genie. Feeling ashamed for not telling the people of Scuttletown that she was only a half-genie, Shantae is then told that it's not important, because she's the hero of Scuttletown regardless. Shantae then heads back to the lighthouse for some relaxing in the sun. To keep things interesting, as we explore further into the game, we will come across a wide variety of locations such as fields, forests, seaside cliffs, frozen mountains, deserts, bogs, and of course the various temples and mines. Much like the enemies contained within, there's a lot of variation that reflects each individual area. There's a nice attention to detail, and the developer's passion for what they were creating really shows. The art style of the game is well crafted, and especially focuses on the character animations of the non-playable characters. Of course, full credit goes to the animations for Shantae. Besides everything we've already seen, I thought the animation in the towns, and particularly when Shantae enters a building, to be very neat. The soundtrack was excellent, and I found myself playing through some of the songs in my head even days after finishing the game. I also feel it kinda necessary to comment on the quote-unquote cuteness factor of the game. It's not exactly a kiddie kind of cuteness, but it can really appeal to everyone. The ladies of Sequinland get an extra bit of attention in design, but the curvaceousness and jiggle is relatively innocent in execution, giving Shantae's its own unique style of animation compared to other games that may be similar in gameplay. The dancing features added a little extra element of fun, and whimsical lightheartedness I enjoyed during many of the times transforming into animals or teleporting to towns. I mentioned before that I picked up a reproduction copy of the game. Since it wasn't a widely released game being at the end of the Game Boy Color's life cycle, it has become rather expensive over the years. With the incredibly late release and the box art and screenshots on the back that do nowhere near the justice the game deserves, I can see why the game went on unnoticed for such a long time, and I really think that's a shame. For me, this is a better late than never situation, and I really do feel like this is one of the best Metroidvania style titles out there, and definitely ranks up there with the Metroids and Castlevanias themselves. The scale of what this game is on the Game Boy Color is pretty impressive as well. Clocking around 10 to 12 hours, with well thought out challenging gameplay, fantastic music, fun characters, impressive animation and art direction for the console at the time it was released, I'd have to say that Shantae is definitely a must play. Thanks for checking out my review of Shantae. What were your thoughts on the game? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked what you've seen or heard, please give the video a like, a share, and subscribe to see future videos. I'm on Facebook and Twitter as well, and I post a lot of other great game-related content there, and links are in the description. Until next time on the Game Grinder.